welcome, Ivan. In today's lesson, we're going to focus on speaking part 1, part 2 and part 3, and the topic that we are going to focus on is about money and society. Now, as I always remind you in the start of the lesson, remember in the advanced level, we are only looking at this in English, okay? Because you're going for the exam and we're not going to explain anything in Sinhala, right? So some comments that I've seen is that most students ask when we launched the advanced level was that, can you do it in Sinhala? The reason I don't encourage that is because now you've come to the latter part of your race, okay? You've done the beginner, you've done the intermediate, and the advanced is just before you go for the exam. So it's better you expose yourself to the language in a broad aspect and make sure that you are comfortable with the language. So let's look at everything in English, and at any point if you feel uncomfortable or you're not sure about a word, you know what to do, you know where to find the Cambridge Dictionary, and then obviously you could have a look at the definition of that word. Okay. So, moving on with the lesson, we're going to have a look at part 1 questions, then a part 2 and some part 3 questions. So, how important is money to you? For me, money is really important. The reason is I've got a lot of expenditure and I've got 3 kids and I need to make sure that they're comfortable. So I need to buy them food, clothing, and then we've got the necessity or rather the important things that I need to buy. So for all of that, to buy anything in Sri Lanka, we need money. Therefore, money is quite important for me. So, money is something which gives you happiness and sorrow too. Yes, money is really important to get a good and healthy lifestyle. This indeed is a fact that you cannot do anything without money, right? So yes, money is important. This is indeed a fact that you can't do anything without money. Right. Second one. Would you like to become rich someday? Well, I think I'm happy at the moment. I don't have a lot of money, which means I'm not really rich, but I'm self-sufficient, so I get the money that I want to kind of have a good and healthy lifestyle. I think when you're extremely rich, sometimes it does bring along unhappiness because you're so busy trying to earn that you could miss out on the good things, the other good things in life, like your family, spending time, having a bit of free time for yourself. So I don't think I really want to be rich. No, but I really want to earn enough money to complete my basic necessities, because having excess money can also ruin your life. Okay. After earning a lot, we get a negative attitude and we start treating the people in a very harsh manner. Okay. So this is what the student thought about. I gave you a different answer. Now, for most of the questions, I'm trying to give you my answer as well as a structured answer. So you can see the difference that when the examiner asks you something spontaneously, how you would reply. But from structured answers, you could pick out good things like, phrases, vocabulary, linking words, idiomatic expressions. All right, so after earning a lot, most people believe that you would get a negative attitude, right, towards certain things. That depends. You could either give your personal view or you could give an answer like I did before, right? Okay. The next question. Do you think it is okay to lend money to friends or family members? So giving money, but you're obviously going to get it back. For me, I personally don't believe in lending money because that ruins your relationship in the end. Because money, people are quite greedy for money, and then you kind of lose the whole relationship because they might not return back the money. So I believe that you should not borrow money, nor should you lend money to your friends or family members. If it is really for a good cause, I don't have any issues in lending money. But in my point of view, borrowing is a very big deal and very hazardous too, right? So you know you don't have to write a capital D here. You can just put a simple D there, right? But the student's point of view is that you could give money if it's for a good cause, but borrowing money could be quite stressful and it is a big deal. I wouldn't use the word hazardous, right? But I would say that it could be quite stressful. So this is something I wouldn't use, right? Rather instead, I would use is a big deal and could cause and could be quite stressful. Okay? Right, so moving on, speaking part 2. Now, as you know, in this part, you get 1 minute to prepare yourself and you need to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. So during your preparation time, they will give you a paper and a pencil and you can make notes if you wish. Describe what you would do if you received a very large amount of money. You should say who you would share it with, what you would buy, what else you would do, and explain how you would feel about getting so much money. Okay? So if I got a lot of money, I would share it with my family and I would buy a house. What else would you do? Invest. Right? So that I could use it in the future. Explain how you would feel about getting so much money. I would feel happy. Or you could say delighted, overjoyed. Okay. Now, you need, remember, to signpost. So, if I received a very large amount of money, I would share it with my husband and kids. Now, thinking about what I would buy a nice luxurious house to live in because I think a house is a basic necessity, but having a luxurious house is actually not a need, but it's kind of like a want, something that is outside the necessity, but I would like to have one. And what else I would do with the money would be that after I buy the house, with the remaining money, I would want to invest the money in something that would give me a good rate of return. Okay, so maybe I would invest it in the bank or maybe on fixed deposit, maybe on jewelry, maybe on dollars, buying dollars. I would invest on certain projects. I would look around and see which investment opportunities are quite attractive and then invest on one of those. How I would feel about getting so much money, I mean, I would feel really happy, overjoyed, flabbergasted because I really don't have a lot of money. But at the same time, I think it would also make me feel a bit sad because it's not something that I have earned for, right? I've received a very large amount of money. So I'm a person who really wants to earn my own money and spend it. So deep inside me, I wouldn't be that happy because I haven't earned it for myself. So can you see, I kind of signpost at each point, and that is something you should be doing. Okay, you could also use idiomatic expressions. I did use collocations, but you could think about using some idiomatic expressions as well. Now, a sample answer is this really depends on how much money a large amount is. If it's in the trillions, I'd probably buy up most of Europe or maybe North America. I would be my own little king and have everyone pay homage to me. There would be no wars because I wouldn't let them happen. I would be fair to all people. We would commission all of the nuclear scientists to try and discover an economical, plentiful and non-toxic substitute for gasoline and diesel. There would be less pollution because if you want to drive a gas-powered vehicle, you'd have to pay a fine as far as noise pollution is concerned. Now, can you see how different the answer is running? Do you think these parts are really necessary? No. I think the student is going out of the context a bit, okay? So like I did before, if you write down things and signpost at each point, I think that would be really good, okay? All my subjects would love me because they'd know I'm trying my best to keep all of them. So this is fairly okay, but you can see the before bit doesn't really add any value to your answer. I would use all the money that would normally be spent on wars to help poorer nations, improve the lives of war-torn countries, and build a bigger roller coaster theme park. When all this is done, and with whatever money I have left, I would get the best, most expensive guitar in the market, would say in the market, and hire a super skilled guitar player to teach me all he knows. I'd really enjoy that, okay? So I think the student does have some good ideas, but the student is getting carried away with the topic sometimes. Use of prepositions, you've got to be careful when you are answering, okay? So looking at the sample answer here, money isn't really that important to me, but you need money to live, and if you don't have money, you can't do anything. But I'm really against the idea of just spending your whole life trying to make a bunch of money so that you can die a rich man. Most of the people who do that don't even get to enjoy the money they have, and they're never content with what they have because they always want more. That's a recipe for misery, okay? Which I agree as well, okay? So having money is good, and we all feel being rich is nice. But behind the doors, I think people who are rich, they don't really have time to enjoy their life. I'm not saying all of them, okay? So for the IELTS exam, you're just giving your views, right? So you can say, well, sometimes they can't really enjoy life, and they don't have time to spend that money even because they're earning more and more. And I think that creates, or that leads you into misery. Now, if you're really rich and you're watching this, right, you think, oh no, that's not the truth. I have a good life. I enjoy myself. Well, that's a different view. You could talk about it. You can say, no, rich people have an extravagant life and they can spend on whatever they want. They have time to relax and, go to the gym, to buy good things. So money can be really important. You can talk and give views either way. You can say, yes, it's good, or you can say, no, it's not good. All right. Do you think children in China are given too much pocket money? Now, this is in China. You could also use it in terms of Sri Lanka. Do you think children in Sri Lanka are given too much pocket money? Well, in my understanding, not every child in Sri Lanka is rich, and not every child is being given pocket money. So it depends. Some children who are rich and who go to international schools, parents give them pocket money, and sometimes this pocket money is too much, and this could lead into unwanted problems. Sometimes they end up buying drugs and they get themselves into a mess. Whereas some of them don't, right? They really use the pocket money to do something more useful. They buy food, and the remaining they save it up. Whereas if you're not from that affluent rich family, then most children don't get pocket money in Sri Lanka. They go to government schools and they use the public transportation, and parents don't have the means to give them pocket money, so that would not be a problem for them. So it really depends on how much they're getting. Some kids definitely get way more than they need, and the others don't get enough. There are some families where the parents hardly ever have enough money to pay their bills and get food. I don't think these families should feel obliged to give their children money that they don't have. But if they do have money, then it would be nice to give at least some spending money to their children. Okay, so typical answer that I told you, but in a different context, and this is in terms of a Chinese context. I gave you an answer in terms of a Sri Lankan context. All right. How do you think parents could teach the value of money to their children? Now, I personally think if you give your child everything that they need endlessly without a limit, they would never understand how hard it is to earn money, and they would never understand the value of money. For an example, you go into a clothes store and you tell them, oh, you can buy whatever you want without giving them a limit or without telling them exactly what they can buy and how much they can spend. That would be a problem in the long run, because that means that they don't understand that money has value and that it's hard earned. So I feel that as parents, how we could teach students the value of money is setting them standards. When they go out, they get a limit that they can spend. There's a limit that they can buy. And when you give them pocket money, encourage them not to spend everything but to save. And if they save a certain amount, you could, do something to encourage them to save up more. So it's really important that parents inculcate these values at a very young age. Now, coming back, that was my answer, right? But coming to the answer, which is a structured answer, if you give your children only a small amount of money each week, then they'll have to make it, they'll have to learn how to keep it for the entire week. It might take a while for them to learn, and they might be broke for the first few months. But after a while, they'll realize that money doesn't grow on trees and will respect its value. Of course, there are children who always want everything they see, and if parents give it to them, then kids will never understand the value of money, right? So I think this is something similar that I was also telling you, but in a different structure, in a different format, right? Do you think it is important to let children learn money skills? Well, I think it's really important that children learn money skills, because from early age, if we encourage that, they would like to save money more. They would go to the bank more. They would like to save more, which would mean that they have a certain value towards money and saving it. I think that would be a wonderful idea. If all kids knew how to do banking, open a savings account and cash checks, right? Now, this one here, can we say this check? I want to pick up on it. Can we say that check? No. This check is balala okkoma karanawa, check karanawa okkoma hondaida kiyala, right? But in terms of check, a cash check is this one. A check, cash check, okay? Their parents would have a lot more leisure time. And even if the parents still do banking, at least when their kids grow up, they won't be totally helpless. In fact, they'll have a big jump on the other kids their age. I think so too, right? So money skills is how to handle money. You go to the bank, you deposit money, and you learn to manage your own money. That is something. really important, and kids learning that skill could be quite useful. All right. Do you think people should be paid extra when they work overtime? I think it depends on the job, but if any person works overtime, I think they deserve to be paid more because they're working outside their normal hours, and according to any labor law, you have a standard amount of hours that you could work. So if you're going to work extra, I think people or employees should be paid adequately to encourage them to keep on working and also to maintain or reduce labor turnover rates. So that would be quite important. If you pay someone extra to work overtime, then you're in a sense giving them an incentive to work harder. Incentive. When the work day is over, most people just want to go home and relax. Some people are workaholics. Shopaholics. Remember I taught you this? Shopaholics, right? People who love to go shopping. Workaholics are people who love to work and don't think anything of working until 3 or 4 in the morning and getting up at 6, right? A few hours later to go back to work. But these people are rare. So if you want more people to work later, an overtime bonus is a very good idea. So I totally agree with this. Giving them incentives, motivating them ensures that your labor turnover rate reduces or it's minimized, which would mean that you have more employees with you for a longer time. And if that's the case, training costs would reduce, skilled workers would increase over time. All right. What kinds of jobs have higher pay and why? I think most skilled jobs are paid higher. Example like the doctors, the engineers, the dentists, even laborers, carpenters, right? Abroad, I think carpenters are paid quite a lot because they're highly skilled jobs. Now, jobs like designing and repairing computer software, lawyers, doctors and surgeons, building designers, scientists and Hollywood actors are some of the better paid jobs. All these jobs require years of study, research and lots of experience in that field, okay? So, I think so too. But carpenters, laborers, they need a broad experience and they need a lot of experience to work in that industry. So they do get paid a lot and it depends on your experience, but they do get paid a lot. So apart from that, you would have Hollywood actors, Bollywood actors as well, okay? Building designers, architects, lawyers, engineers, doctors, consultants, okay? In a Sri Lankan context, they get paid a lot. But I think again, this would differ from country to country. What we get paid here for certain jobs might not be the same pay scale abroad. So in some other countries, skilled workers or what we call skilled migration or skilled workers in the skilled migration category, the skilled workers could get paid higher than the other jobs. Okay? What occupations do you think will get high salary in the future? Let's have a look at a sample answer. People who are multilingual, okay, will be highly sought after in the future. Multilingual, people who can speak more than one language. As the world is becoming more international, people who speak more than 2 languages fluently will be greatly needed. English is the main international language right now, but there are billions of extremely intellectual individuals who can't speak or understand English. These people don't want to get left out of all the fun and the games that are happening in the rest of the world. So they need translators who will be able to make them understand about people of different races and cultures and different people from different originalities. Okay? I would say in future, lots of skilled jobs will be getting paid more and more, right? And looking at even sportsmen, actors and actresses, they would get paid more as well in the future because people are into sports and acting and singing and things like that. So entertainers would also get paid more in the future. Is pay the most important factor in a job? Well, it depends on how people perceive this opinion. In my opinion, I think money or the pay is important, but it's not the most important factor because there are also other motivational factors such as your working environment, the other benefits that you get in your job, and especially your job satisfaction, the job role that you're doing and how your bosses, how your colleagues are. So unknowingly, even though the monetary or the pay factor is quite important, I believe that the non-monetary factors are equally important for a person when they're doing a job. And I think some people like Maslow in the past came up with this theory called Maslow's hierarchy of Maslow. It was hierarchy of needs by Maslow. Okay, where he said people would be motivated if they had the basic needs and then the safety, the belongingness, and then finally self-esteem, right? So it's not just money only. I also believe in that. Now, having a look at a sample answer, the most important factor is, as most of fun-loving people know, how much vacation time you get. Not only time off, but paid time off. Another important thing is to keep in mind is what kind of work it is. Some work is just boring and nobody likes doing it. Now, can you see, is this answer really relevant? Is the pay the most important factor? I think looking at an answer like this, now these are sample answers extracted from students, right? Why am I putting up structured answers? Some are good, some are not that good, to compare. Now, I gave you an answer which was fairly to the point, right? Now, when you have a look at this answer, you think, oh, is this really relevant? That's what I want you to think. Because some of you out there, when we do a speaking test with you, you do actually answer things like this, which are completely out of the context, and then you can't get a good grade, okay? But if you really want to excel in your work, pick something that you feel comfortable doing, something that you're good at. The workplace environment is also very important. Some offices are stuffy and drab, whereas others make you feel fresh and alive. Yes, the points are good, but it's not always linking back to the question as to, is the pay the most important factor in the job, okay? So here and there, some answers were there, but that coherence, cohesion, that logical flow, and some of the points are irrelevant to the question, okay? What is the primary source of income for the Chinese government? Now, if I take the Sri Lankan government, okay, what is the primary source of income for the Sri Lankan government? It would be that our primary source of income would be from tax as well as tourism. We used to get some money by exporting tea, rubber and coconut, but throughout the years I think it has dropped and tourism has become one of our main income sources. So the primary source of government income is taxes. Taxes are the way that governments support all their projects around the country. That's something that I told as well. Whether they're building skyscrapers, roads, or schools in impoverished countries or counties, all this funding comes from taxes. Another way to put it is that you're supporting the government because you're the one paying the taxes. Whenever you see government officials or new doing of something or another, you could know that you are actually responsible since it is you who made it possible for them to do it. Okay, so I spoke about income generation, not only from taxes, but also from other sources. You could speak according to what you know. But these are things that most students don't pick up on, right? And they go for the exam without preparing, and then they're lost and they're like, oh, teacher, I couldn't do this because I didn't know anything about this topic. That's why I always tell you, expose yourself to many topics and questions as possible, so that before you go for the exam, you go through many questions and you're confident that whatever question comes by, you could bat it, okay? So make sure you prepare yourself well before you go for the exam. Do you think the government should let people know how it spends money? I think that is their responsibility, because they just can't spend money as they want. If they're getting their income through taxpayers and through different other sources, they need to let the people know as to how they spend it and on what do they spend their money on, especially in Sri Lanka, right? That would be very nice. I've always wondered what exactly is going on behind those closed doors. Naturally, some things can't be talked about because they're state secrets, and some things you probably don't want to know about, such as how money was spent on this banquet or that convention, or how many liters of gasoline their vehicles consume each month, okay? But I would like to know exactly what they're spending my money on, okay? So I think what even we should do is question them more, right? To see, have you spent it on the right thing? Which I think most Sri Lankans tend not to ask questions, like, for an example, like, okay, you give them some money, you give your kids money, and you don't really ask them, what did you spend it on? Okay, or, where is my balance? I've spent this much, but where's my balance of 5 rupees? Because we don't tend to ask, we've let it go. I think that has caused great chaos. Just a bit of thought for you outside the question, all right? So I think we have gone through, again, a few questions which are quite useful and things that you would not really think about in terms of vocabulary, use of language, right? So I thought this was again another good topic for you to give you an insight that these kind of questions could come for the exam. I'm not saying it's always going to come. All I'm saying, it is probable, all right? So we've had a look at some part 3 questions, we've had a look at a part 2 question as well, and we discussed a few part 1 questions. So with that, we've come to the end of the lesson, which was an advanced speaking lesson covering part 1, 2 and 3 around the topic money and society.